This computer. All right, welcome back to the Bit Obscene radio program. I have two candidate temporary co-hosts with me today, Prop Joe Obish and Sean Gallardi. This episode of the Bit Obscene radio program is brought to you by Mayordomo 100% Cacao, Sin Azúcar, apparently. Brand new sponsor. They sent me this box. It's lovely. You can eat it, and your face gets a little numb, and you feel a little sweaty, and you just want to talk to people. So I like it. So I took a bite of that so I could talk to these two. Today we're going to be talking about SQL Server. Actually, we're going to do 5 episodes in a row, short episodes, hit and runs about SQL Server 2025. The first topic is going to be, you can see the anticipation on Joe's face. It's going to be intelligent query processing.
I don't like how you committed us to doing five because now we have to do five. Whereas you had been like ambiguous, then we could have done
The
less.
ambiguous number five.
Well, we're doing 5, and if we do more, then they're called bonus episodes.
Oh, we have to do. Oh man,
And
so we're gonna do
if
less.
we do fewer, not less, if we do
Oh,
fewer,
fewer.
Joe,
Excuse me.
yeah, okay. So
Okay.
have a little respect. If we do
Okay.
fewer, then it doesn't matter because I will do 2 by myself and just pretend that I fired both of you.
Okay.
All right. So we're good to go. Start us off, Joe. How do you feel about intelligent query processing, the state of intelligent query processing in SQL Server 2025?
So the way I feel about it is, longtime fans of the pod will know that I strongly believe in fixing a query performance issue once and then you fix it forever and you never have to look at it. This is different from the consultant approach of wanting as many billable hours as possible, but I'm not a consultant, so I can get away with that. And the thing about intelligent is kind of means unpredictable,
Hmm.
right? So
Erratic even?
I'm going to show you my pet. So this is my pet rock. It is very predictable. It never poops anywhere it shouldn't. It never chews on wires.
Very house
It's
trained.
it is perfect for me. And this is how I want the query optimizer to be. I don't want any surprises. I don't want any intelligent,
Oh, Joe, you were born
creative
just a little too late. Didn't
changes, right?
Oracle have
Like,
that? They called them
because
roles.
if you like if we just get into the you can have cardinality estimates that change through AI or something,
Hmm.
right? Like, what does it even mean? Um, like I have a performance issue yesterday. I try to reproduce it today. I'm getting a new AI cardinality estimate and I can't reproduce the issue. Or something's working today, it gets worse in the future. Because as we all know, all other than Sean, sometimes better estimates can lead to worse grade performance.
That is
I'm not
true.
sure you've seen it.
That is true.
So, like with respect to the entire feature, uh, I guess it's a bit of a design choice because I remember someone, maybe it was Pablo Blanco, told me that the legacy C, there are a lot of like special cases Microsoft developed over the years. Presumably this was back when Connect actually worked.
Hmm.
So people would complain about their issues and Microsoft would hear their complaints and fix it. And part of the new C, new being 11 years ago, is it's they got rid of a lot of those special cases for better and worse.
Hmm.
And I do wonder if this AI cardinality estimate, like if that fits in that model or not. So to give an example of something I saw recently, as we all know, other than Sean maybe, if you're filtering on a column that stores like when the row was created,
Hmm.
and let's say you do like creation time greater than get date, you expect there to be very few rows returned by that query because the optimizer knows like what get date is. It
Yeah.
can look
The
at
the miracles of constant folding and all that.
It can look at the histogram. Maybe there's some ascending key stuff that can come into play. I don't remember.
Hmm.
Now, if I change my query and say where row created date is greater than get date at time zone, anything,
Mm.
suddenly that's an unknown inequality predicate.
Hmm.
We don't know anything about that. So now we're in the 30% default guess situation. And I think the biggest delta you can get for at time zone is 26 hours or so.
Uh-huh.
And, in real life, it's probably going to be only a few hours. So from the
Well,
point of view of like, I want my query optimizer to know things like it could constant fold at time zone, but it doesn't. Or it could treat at time zone as not really being there because you're generally shifting by a couple hours. Personally speaking, I wouldn't expect to get a totally different kernel estimate just because I'm shifting a parameter by a couple hours.
hmm
But like that feels like the kind of thing which would be, that might be a special case in legacy CE. Maybe, I don't know, but it's certainly not in the new CE. And if we're talking about, well, we'll just do AI stuff, kind of feels like those types of fixes might be dead because like why do special cases when you can just have AI do everything, right?
I mean, in the specific case of at time zone, I have never trusted that function in a query.
Mm.
Aside from maybe like unless I'm using it like in the select list to figure things out. Most of the time, if I need to do anything with time zones, I'm not saying anything at time zone. I'm figuring out like what the difference in hours is with that time zone and then doing date math based on that difference. Like
Which is
I
probably more accurate, to be
yeah,
honest, because of the
because like then you get you constant full like whatever
yeah.
that one scalar value and you're good to go. So at time zone can screw itself. I hate that thing. It ruined three of my nights when I was working on stuff in Query Store. So I don't even want to go there. As far as like intelligent query processing stuff in general goes, like I appreciate the attempts and efforts to make things better, but it all just feels a bit bolted on at times, and it feels like all the stuff where it's like we're gonna do this heuristically, and we're gonna like figure it out, and like whatever, like so like the two things that I have the biggest gripes with so far are batch mode on Rostore. There is at least a newly discovered hint by our Russian friend who to override batch mode heuristics. So we have that going for us. Granted, there are a million other ways to override batch mode heuristics anyway, but the details of that stink. But the other one is the parameter sensitive plan optimization. The way that it gauges skewness and worthiness of kicking in is nonsense, and the way that it buckets things is absolute garbage. And I wish that like anyone in the world with like half a sense would take another look at how that thing works and fix it because it makes no sense to have like a bunch of like middle values get bucketed because those middle values are not the highest value or the lowest value. So like you'll have stuff with like 10 million rows sharing a plan with stuff that has like 100,000 rows because they're not the highest or the lowest. And I feel like that whole scheme is just one of the dumbest things that I've seen choice wise in SQL Server in a long time. Dop feedback is another one that belongs in the garbage bin.
Oh, wait,
Uh,
hold on.
What do you
Let's
how do you
why don't we talk about parameter sensitive whatever as a group
okay,
well,
before you
before
machine
we
gun them
go
all
into that?
out?
Before
Oh,
we
okay.
go into
before
that.
that, okay.
Yeah, it seems like Joe, you're almost asking for the old Oracle style rules where you say join this 10%, do a nested loop join, always do this, always run it this way, and you kind of lock it in because you know better than
Oh, no,
that's
absolutely
what it
not.
sounds like.
So I'm asking for a way to be able to communicate possible query optimization improvements to a top Microsoft man like yourself. and then maybe there's a small chance we get that in the product. Like the at time zone example is entirely like theory based in terms of like like what's reasonable. Or let me word it this way: the more information you have during career optimization, the better in general, right?
Generally.
At time zone isn't some scalar UDF black box. We have no idea what the output's going to be. It's a very well-defined thing. It has a well-defined range in how it's going to change your data. If Microsoft wanted to, they could enhance constant folding or just kernel estimates in general to work better with that time zone.
Could,
For
They
sure.
could. Now, I'm
but
not saying that they should, but it feels like, like that type of tweak is maybe going in the wayside. I'm not looking for anything like Oracle. Oracle is way too expensive.
Oracle is its own set of problems.
Um,
All
so
right,
with respect to
we can get to
what,
PSP, but I wanted to also get your feeling on abort query execution.
man, we're just jumping around and I don't have an opinion on that. Do you have an
All
opinion
right,
on
go
it?
ahead to
Oh,
PSP.
I have a strong one.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh man, wait,
That
we're gonna mix everything up and our poor radio viewers are gonna be confused. Maybe we
that's
should go
okay.
one at a time.
So
No?
the
Okay.
abort query thing is a major whiff by all of Microsoft, the entire organization, top to bottom. The fact that all it does is kill a query if it starts running is absolute gobbledygook. Like that thing, if there were any, again, if there were any sense to anyone, then that thing would have a number that you could supply to it that would tell a query when to time out. Because like most of the time, if you're a DBA, you're not like it's not like, oh, I never want this query to run. You're like, this query has 5 seconds to finish, and if it doesn't finish, it's over. Like just having a query get killed immediately is, I mean, I suppose there are some circumstances where you would put zero in and be like, no, you don't get to run or whatever. But like for the most part, like this, like that hint is absolutely gorgeous for off the rails reporting tools like Looker and other crap like that. And like you want to give those queries a chance, but if they miss their window, then the query just gets executed. There was something like that in Resource Governor, but you need a trace flag
Hmm.
for it. It was like the max CPU time
Yeah.
thing, but like unless you have a trace flag, that doesn't really pan out.
Well,
And I don't
and
know.
and I just want to point out too that the use the use case is not necessarily for abort query execution, but for a lot of this stuff can be, you know, Joe and yourself are doing a lot of actual query tuning, system tuning, design help and work and stuff like that. A lot of poor DBAs, and I was one for a long time, got handed very crappy applications bought by some third party
Yep,
company that God knows what, and has said, you can't touch it, you can't do anything. Also, we're gonna call you when everything breaks and runs slow.
yep.
And I'm like, what do you want me to do with it? I can't. You're
Yeah.
telling me I can't even make a plan override for any of these. Like I can't do a plan. I can't do anything because
Yep.
I void our warranty on the app. So some of this stuff doesn't make sense for people who are actually tuning queries, getting stuff done. But for those people, have to deal with some of this crap that comes through, and it it's not ideal, but it's better than nothing.
I mean, sure, but like,
I think Eric's point is it seems very similar in engineering complexity to have the feature as is compared to have the feature where you can like set a number of seconds. Because the feature as is effectively killing after 0 seconds, maybe.
mhm.
And Eric just wanted to be able to tweak that one number. Is
Yeah,
that accurate?
that is correct.
I I think I can see both sides. Like to Sean's point, that was my interpretation of the use case too, where like if you find yourself implement because you could just do it yourself if you had to, right? Like, well,
We
depending on
have
your
the
platform,
query
like,
timeout, right? You can set
well,
a query
no,
timeout, but it's
well,
already
but
run for that long and use those resources.
Well, in the application you can, but like,
yeah, well, I thought we were talking about you're locked out of a third-party application. You can't
Oh
do it
yeah,
on
go
your
ahead.
own
Go ahead.
because I'm sure people have done things like I'll throw an agent job up every minute, and if I see queries running longer than
Mhm.
X seconds and they fit a certain pattern, then I automatically can kill those queries. So instead of doing that disaster, you could use this if you're okay with just not letting them run it out.
Yeah.
But like that's evaluating the feature from maybe too narrow of a use case, whereas Eric is dreaming bigger and greener and with
We
more
got to
rainbows,
Well,
and
squash that.
I mean,
wants more.
well, I mean,
Smaller
That's
my
dreams,
well,
Eric.
my question here is how many queries in okay, let's just say like we're in Sean's world from when he had a real job, and like you have these crappy third-party applications. You're not allowed to change a query, an index, a setting, anything like that. All you can do is like I don't know, like restart SQL Server if everything locks up. Okay, there you are, and like you know, you're in that world, you're in that place and time, and Microsoft is like, here's this hint, and you're like, cool. Now I can just have these application queries not run. And now all of a sudden, you know, end user Bob and end user Sally are like, well, it's time to go to work and do my job. And they click execute and it just comes back with an error that's like your query's been killed. Like what can you reasonably block in an application that's not going to mess up an end user's day? Like you have to give it a chance to run, and if it can't run, you say like your query timed out. That's like nice and friendly. If someone just like you know hits whatever button to like you know like submit something, and it hangs out for a little bit, and then or like it just immediately returns like you're not allowed to run that query, and they're like, oh cool, I can't do my job. Who do I talk to now? Like it just it's to me it's just wholly unrealistic to have that situation where you're like this like and like unless and look end users are annoying, right? Because like you might have like a bunch of like business intelligence people who are going to be running stuff through Management Studio, and they can easily change like one or two little things about a query and have it completely bypass whatever you set up for that abort thing. So like what's the point? Like give the query a chance. If the query can't finish within like, I don't know, 5, 10, 30 seconds, kill it off. Like if it used the resources that caused a problem, it spiked things up for that time. Fine, but then now it's over, right? Like you're done.
I have an example for you actually from real life even.
Oh boy.
Uh, a developer messes up a query which is like checking a queue,
Uh-huh.
and instead of running once per minute, it runs a billion times a day,
Hmm.
which is something I've seen.
Yeah.
So like for that case, you don't want your billion times per day query to even run for like 1 second.
Okay, fine.
Like like I would view it as like you're picking the lesser of two evils. You know, the entire application is slow and down versus well, we can turn off this queue thing for a couple hours and we can process the data manually later, and the end users might not care that much about this thing which is suddenly running a billion times a day when it wasn't supposed to be.
Okay, but if one of your developers messes up a query like that, and you turn off the queue service and you say, "Hey developer, make a hot fix with a wait for delay in there," like like to me like you're not like you're probably not going to find an enterprise application that screws up that badly. Like granted, okay, like there are cracks that everything can fall through, but like for the most part, you're not going to run into a situation where you're just like this query can never run.
So you've never used Teams.
No, you're right. I specifically not using Teams is in my consultant contract.
So you're effectively basically saying the same thing, right? Where you're viewing the kill at 0 seconds thing as too narrow, and
Hmm.
in your Technicolor dreams, you want to be able to change that from 0 to X, and that's going to cover more use cases,
Yeah.
which I don't think anyone would disagree with. But I mean, you know how it is. Everything Microsoft does, it's never done right the first time, right?
Yeah, but the bigger problem for me is that there's often not a second time with a lot of these things. So you're just stuck with things in V1 and you're like, cool. I'm never going to use that now. Like just
Perhaps we
dustbin
can
it.
add some intelligence to the development process for intelligent query processing.
Perhaps. Perhaps we could. But
You could call it IIQP.
but how do you know how do you know how to intelligently fix a query if it's not allowed to run? Like, you know, you've got to give it a chance. You could even have
Not
like a you
not
could
not if it's running a billion times a
Hey,
day. You
you
can't
could
give it a
even have
chance
a you
then.
could even have a whole thing that kicks in and is just like this query has been aborted because it didn't finish in 10 seconds like 100,000 times. Like let's really think about this one. Let's really do our best to make this one better.
Speaking of doing our best,
Yeah.
I believe we agreed to a specified length of the video, and we're
too much good
already
stuff.
over it. But with respect to parameter sniffing, your favorite thing in the world, my understanding of the what's this thing even called? Parameter sniffing
Plan optimization. The
plan optimiz
parameter sensitive plan
oh,
optimization.
parameter sensitive plan optimization. Do you know if it still only works for equality predicates?
Yes, only equality predicates. There are a number of strange rules,
That
but
one feels weird to me. Like maybe my worldview is too narrow, but
I don't think it is.
You got the
most of
gloves on.
the
That's why it feels weird.
most of the more fake news from Microsoft, right?
Mm,
Most of the parameter sensitive
yeah.
issues I see are relating to inequality predicates on
Yep.
dates where
Yep.
you know that they have passed today or a year or 10 years from
Yep.
now. And it's not so much equality predicates. At least that's in the workloads that I know of. So the whole thing kind of feels not exciting for
Yeah.
me personally.
No, I mean, like in my, consultant demo world, it's very easy to find equality predicate issues in the Stack Overflow database. You have like the post type ID and vote type ID stuff, and there are wild swings in the number of post and vote type IDs. So it's very easy to show it A, not working when it should with those, and B, the bad bucketing that happens even when it does work. But I think generally you're right in that, a lot of the problems that I see with parameter sensitivity are with bounded date ranges where, for the majority of the queries that come in, they're looking at the last hour or day of data or something, and or like the current working day of data, whatever it is. And then every once in a while, someone will come along and say, "Oh, well, I need to see 6 months of crap now," and then that plan just, bites
Blows
it.
it.
Yeah. So like, yeah. So like, I feel like there should be something like, rather, Microsoft has enough crazy rules around date things in query plans, like get range through mismatch types and get range through convert, that it feels like a very natural fit for the parameter sensitive plan optimization to have special rules around dates where it should be able to look at them and be like, oh, like, yeah, like the last time this ran, it was for the last like 4 hours of data. And hey, this person's looking for a much bigger range. We should probably figure something else out. Like that seems like like a good special case for me, but what do I know?
Maybe part of the thing that makes it tricky is you often see, the start date and end date parameters too. So then it's like you have to optimize for the pair of parameters, which I'm sure is way too much
No, you
engineering
only you
work
only you
for.
only have to
No?
you only have to engineer for the distance between them.
Well, right, but if your start procedure has like 100 parameters and
Hmm.
like you as the expert know, well, these two parameters really matter the most. Like the problem is shifted from one equality predicate to one inequality predicate to the right pair of inequality predicates. It certainly seems possible, but
I mean,
I
to
I still would like them to do inequality first, then
yeah,
equality.
for me, it feels like the optimizer is smart enough to pick up on those patterns when a query is being like optimized. It's like looking at the parameters and it's looking at the columns and it's looking at the way that they're being assessed. And it's pretty easy to infer from all of the various trees and parsings and bindings and all the other stuff that goes on that like, oh, like yeah, these two pair up together. Like sure, if you just like saw like a store procedure and a list of parameters, it might not be obvious at first, even though you might have something called start date and might have something called end date. And maybe some queries use start date and some queries use end date and they don't pair up. Like that, fine. Like, there's edge cases, but like as soon as you start like really getting into looking at a query and trying to figure out a plan, you have a pretty good sense of when they are paired and when it's probably a good idea to figure something out.
Oh, Sean, Eric thinks it's easy. Will you have good news for us in SQL Server 2029?
Or 2030 or whatever
Yeah, or
else.
whatever.
When are
No
they going
comment?
to have local variable deferred compilation?
No idea.
Yeah,
Probably
no idea.
never, because think about how many like behavior changes you get from that.
Well, I know, but like
Everything would break.
the option should be on the table.
Yeah, we'll just do that. Add that to the connection options.
Yeah.
Option Eric's additional
Option
options.
It's
sniff local
everything's just a
variables.
database scope config or a
That's
query
fair.
hand. There's probably it's
That's there.
fine.
Just look under preview features.
Yeah.
Well, hmm.
Speaking of preview features, no, we're not going to switch topics. We won't do
We
that to our nice listeners.
we should switch topics.
You could throw a local variable into a into a one row table variable, and then maybe get some deferred compiling on that.
But you still don't have a histogram on that.
Well, they should improve that and add a histogram.
Ah, well then you just have a temp table by a different name.
Yeah, but yeah, you have a temp table without all the temp table issues.
But if it has a histogram, well, I guess if they
Well,
just don't
what you
if
have
they
a
don't do the
histogram on
caching,
a single row, like it's gonna be no problem.
yeah, sure.
There, right there, we figured it out.
Okay,
Sean,
so
God,
table variables can have
you're
histograms as long as it's on a
taking
single
notes,
row.
right? Sean, you're taking notes.
yep. You see my
Okay,
list?
okay, yeah. I saw it. I saw it. How do we feel about DOP feedback? I actually had an opportunity back in 2019 when
Hmm.
I was on Microsoft's campus. A very intelligent gentleman
Mm.
who I respect greatly, but who also has no internet presence. I'm not going to say his name. Asked me if I wanted to give feedback on the DOP feedback feature. I said, this seems not very useful. You shouldn't do it at all, which was, I guess, not the feedback Microsoft wanted in that case, because sadly they still did it. Um, I looked at it when it was 2022 and thought it was pretty flawed. Should I just go for it?
Yeah, go for it.
From what I remember,
It's a long silence.
it's hard to figure
You
out
We're
went for it.
we're
how to word things
we're
sometimes.
we're reading from disk on this one.
One of the big problems with
Azure Pass.
uh, row mode parallelism is you can really get hammered by performance depending on how busy the server is.
Yeah.
Way more than batch mode, way more than serial queries. There's a demo on a blog post on your site where I think the performance difference was something like 25 to 1,
Is this was
where
this
it was
the round robin
not round robin. It
or
was
demand?
well, this is where demand would be like way better.
Ah,
But
okay.
it was some very simple query with
Hmm.
row mode uh, repartition stream operators. And if you had like a single CPU that was very busy,
Yep.
the query runtime got like 25 times worse
Yep.
due to the yielding.
Hmm.
Um, so I don't know how you can effectively do DOP feedback when you're not accounting for things like the server is busy during these hours. And this is when I really care about performance.
Yep.
Okay, because the thing is gathering data all the time. And if you start gathering data like after a server restart, maybe that's at 2 a.m. Well, all your parallel queries are doing great at 2 a.m. because there's so little work on the server.
Yep.
Um, so there's that big issue, which maybe it's better in 2025. I have no idea. I think they're kind of cagey on the details. The
I
other
don't.
thing that bugs me about it is I've never personally tuned a query to anything but max.1 or really, encouraging parallelism for the
Yep.
query. Like, I'm not doing, oh, well, this query will run at DOP2, and this one will run at 4, this one will run at 6, and this one will run at 7 because I'm feeling lucky that day. And like even worse, for the poor soul who has to do that, this feature isn't actually respecting that. Because if you ask me how to design it, if we had to do it, I would say, well, if you know, if a person or an AI added like the literal max stop X hint to the plan, presumably someone like looked at that query and like that DOP should not be overridden
Hmm.
by whatever automated process this thing is running. But that's not how it works.
I don't know.
I
It,
don't like it, Eric. I don't
no,
like it.
I don't like it either. I think it's goofy because it only adjusts stop down. It doesn't adjust stop up. It would never look at a query running at dop 4 and be like, oh, dop 8's better, like magically. But I think the really the biggest flaw in it for me is that it will never adjust down to max stop 1. It only adjusts down to max stop 2. And I remember hearing at some point that they couldn't accomplish that without a recompile, but we all know that's nonsense because when a SQL server comes under enough memory, enough CPU pressure, it will run a parallel query plan at DOP1 internally. So it doesn't actually need to recompile, and there's really no reason for it not to get down to DOP1. But like for me, the thing that I would much rather see happen is if we're talking about like parallelism feedback is like fix the parallel page supplier. Like if you have a parallel query that's ending up with incredibly lopsided threads, like like you have a DMV that shows that is detectable by SQL Server. Like you could actually do something meaningful with like whatever algorithm is being used to distribute rows to threads in order to balance that on like a future execution. And that would be far more meaningful to me than like, some other feature sitting in the background being like dop 8, nope, dop 6, nope, dop 4, nope, dop 2, dop 2, just leave it. Like I think it's just a waste of time.
You reminded me of another complaint I had, which is like it seemed very focused on preventing recompiles. But if we're talking about tuning these big parallel queries, like
Yeah.
I've never thought, oh man, I have this parallel query that runs for 30 seconds. I have to avoid recompiling it no
Yeah.
matter what. Like
Yeah.
that's my number one priority. No recompiles. Those and maybe that was just decided by cookies and it can't be overturned. But
I don't think cookies was on that one.
if you're able to move past that, I actually had a good idea, I think, just now. Like,
Yeah.
what if
Hmm.
we had batch mode heuristic, like IQP, where if you have a row mode query, it has terrible distribution on the repartition streams, tons of parallel weights. The next time you execute it, and enable it batch
Yeah.
mode
Yeah.
heuristics.
Well,
See
that
what
would be nice.
happens.
That would be sweet.
Joe
Yeah,
mode
no,
on
like
batch mode.
that would be way better in my mind than we're gonna take a terrible row mode parallel query and maybe downgrade it.
Yeah.
Because if you think about a query that's running properly, as in it's doing a batch mode or demand-based parallelism,
Yep.
I can't think of a single case where, oh, I have this great batch mode hash join. It's running at DOP 8. Whoa,
Yeah.
whoa, whoa. Batch mode hash join, DOP 8. That's
Yeah.
terrible. We need to knock that down to 4. Like that would never happen because, well, just the internals are so much better suited to. If you're running at a DOP that's too high for batch mode or demand-based parallelism or broadcast parallelism, it doesn't really matter unless you're running out of worker threads. But again, if you're in batch mode, you're not going to run out of worker threads anyway.
Yeah. Oh,
All right, Sean, Eric and I figured it out.
yep.
We've,
Ship it.
Uh,
ship it.
Nothing else
Figured
to
it out and
do. It's
ship
all
it.
done.
Yep.
You guys
Yeah,
did it.
we had to.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
We should get hired as co-PMs to just fix SQL Server.
Copums.
Yep.
Hmm.
Anything else on IQP to make it IIQP in the future?
Mm, nah.
I've talked about everything I want to.
Yeah, same.
Or wait, did you want to complain about the SBX sequel?
I mean, yeah, but my complaint with that is I don't understand why you would want a similarly bad behavior to occur. Like,
Compile storms.
yeah. So like I've had a number of clients where they've had stored procedures run and all of a sudden, like one of the queries is compiling a plan, and you have compile locks, and now you have a bunch of other copies of the store procedure waiting to compile a plan, and or waiting to use the plan that the current store procedure is compiling. And I fixed that at quite a few places by using SP execute SQL so that now you just have like a bunch of queries compiling independently. None of them really sit around waiting. Everyone's happy. Like they don't have like one store procedure that just locks up a million other copies of the store procedure. And now that's all going to get broken. Right? It's gonna screw up my whole system. I had a
You're
very good
welcome.
system. I had a very good thing worked out, and now I'm getting screwed on it.
Now you
I
get more
I have
hours.
a question on that actually, because I'll admit I'm not familiar with compile storms or
Mm-hmm.
so-called compile
Mm-hmm.
storms. So is the way it works, you could have many procedures, there's no compiled plan. The first one to start compiling gets some type of lock
Yep.
resource. The other ones wait.
Yep.
The first one to finish is compiling. There's now a compiled plan. The other sessions stop waiting and they use the compiled plan from the first one.
Correct.
So in what scenarios would that be bad? The one I'm thinking of is maybe the CPU you're compiling on is like super busy
Well,
and the
there's
first compile takes a long time, so it holds the lock for a long time.
Well,
Like is that an
it
example
can be a
or
there's
lot.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's two main examples that I've dealt with. One of them is I don't even know if this is a word at this point. One of them is mitigatable by async stats updates because like sometimes the long compile lock is
oh yeah,
because
yeah, for
of a
sure.
long synchronous stats update.
Yeah.
But then you'll run into other times where it's a long like just like a long query compilation, and like for whatever
So
reason that just sucks the life out of a server.
I was gonna say, Joe, as a real life example, there's a stored procedure that was tens of thousands of lines long, for example, and it would take minutes sometimes to run the compilation stuff on that. And the I don't know if you remember when microservices was super hot. Everything was a microservice.
Still
And
kind of is.
so still kind of is, yeah. We just don't, it's not super hot to say anymore.
No,
So
we've moved on.
yeah, yeah, CIOs don't get jacked off on all over the place anymore. So anyway, so you would have this, and then the, microservice. Oh, we need to spin up another microservice, and it needs to, the query didn't execute, so we need to rerun it again. Check it in 1 second. All right, now submit it 100 more times. And all of a sudden you have a 32, 64 core server that has 15,000 new connections getting to it, all trying to run that query because it didn't run the first time because microservices, and we
Yep.
don't care. We just fire and forget and hope everything goes.
Well, I don't understand that example because if it's taking multiple minutes to compile, like wouldn't it be worse to have many sessions all doing the multiple minute compile? Because I feel like you're complaining that, the code's written very poorly.
Well,
But
you DDoS the server.
you either
Server
have
goes down.
right, but you either have to pick one or the other. Like if you have the compile storm, you have a bunch of sessions waiting on the lock. If you don't pick it, you have a bunch of sessions all using CPU and other resources trying to compile the plan. Like they're both bad, aren't they? Or are like I don't really see why having a bunch of sessions waiting on a lock is worse than having a bunch of sessions all doing the multiple minute compile at once.
I mean, so for that example, a better thing would be, let's say it only takes 15 seconds to
Yeah.
compile. But a lot of these, when I've worked on these, it's been, and I mean thousands of connections all coming in, all running the same query. And if you would let them go and all run in the 15 and compile and do this stuff, then you'll start getting out there. Like it'll start making headway. But if you let them all block up, then they continually block up. I mean, you're still going to hit a point where you DDoS yourself, but that's there's really not there's really not a good way other than not having And even if you take out the compilation storm, it's still not good, right?
Yeah, all right. So I think what you're saying. There's some internals reasons as to why getting those hundreds or thousands of compile locks at the same time is going to gum things up. Like not to blame you guys in this case because it sounds like a pretty annoying problem, but like there's something about the lock manager or whatever is even doing it, which makes it not able to efficiently untangle all those thousands of compile locks. They're
Well, just think about if you have 20,000 connections all sleeping, waiting on one lock, and then the lock gets freed up, and then you go have to say, all right, let's walk through 20,000 sessions and say that these are all, you know, runnable. Just the fact of doing that makes it ridiculous, right? You're doing more overhead to do that than to just say, actually, sit there. I'll pick one of you. What? None of you will get to run if we do it the other way. At least this way, one of you gets to run.
Yeah. Yeah, my experience has been converting like especially so like maybe my example was a bit oversimplified where like there's one query in a store procedure that like locks things up for whatever reason, but like there can like when you have incredibly long store procedures with a lot of like if branch logic stuff like that where rather than compiling a plan for everything along the line in that one go, putting stuff into the dynamic SQL gives you some separation of duties, or like putting stuff into other store procedures gives you some separation of duties, some like deferred compilation stuff, and a lot of the times that does solve a pretty big problem for the compilation locking stuff. So, there's like I've just dealt with so many weird permutations of it that like the dynamic SQL thing is a very obvious answer to me. But like I just really hate that now dynamic SQL is going to have like that same sort of compile locking behavior because that really undoes like a behavior that I've relied upon for I think the first time I ever actually had to do that was like early 2020. So like for me that feature is a big lose because I like to me it undoes a very reliable and dependable behavior that fixed a lot of problems.
sounds like we're all looking forward to UQP in the future, right?
Yeah,
It's
new
not
QP.
UQP, U as in
Well,
unintelligent.
yes. Well,
about that 15 minutes.
yep.
All right,
Well,
I'm a good in this topic.
yep, me too. All right. We're going to end this one here and we're going to talk about Standard Edition next, I think. If anyone can still
Locking us
talk
in
after all
again.
this. Yep,
Okay,
yep.
yep.
Yep, I'm doing it. I'm doing it to all of you. All right. So we're going to stop this recording and thank you all for watching. And I hope that you've found a way to survive this verbal intercourse. All right.